one public comment tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we'll move along.
74%. 74%. A little bit lower than last year, 76. I'm okay with that. See what a couple of days. Yeah. Today was only the first day for the opt-out.
This is a follow-up letter of a meeting held on January 28, 2016, regarding the employment status of Mr. Teacher to Mr. Administrator 1. Mr. Administrator 1 informed Mr. Teacher that the district was concerned with his job performance. At one point, you mentioned that he could send out his resume, if he so desired, to look for a position elsewhere. You also stated that you hoped for a turnaround in his performance. You also asked Mr. Teacher how he felt everything was going, and he responded that he felt things were going well and had not been told by anyone anything that would lead him to believe that his future employment was in jeopardy. The association asked for specifics as to what Mr. Teacher, quote unquote, was not doing, and the response was he was not meeting expectations, he was not showing enough initiative. The association went on to ask what expectations were not being met, and no specifics were given. In fact, it was clear that no administrator at the table knew what the expectations even were. When the association asked about, quote unquote, showing more initiative, again, no one offered any specifics. When the association asked from whom these allegations were being made, again, no answers. The association specifically went around the table and asked said administrators if they had observed Mr. Teacher. They all responded no. One administrator said, quote, he has no problem with Mr. Teacher's work at the high school, unquote. Mr. Teacher was observed by another building administrator whose observation report was excellent. The association also pointed out that Mr. Teacher received only one observation, a good one, during his first year, and received no summative evaluation as required by district policy and APPR. No one knew this. It was also emphasized by the association that at no time did the district ever offer Mr. Teacher mentoring, nor for the first year in the district, he had no supervisor. The association also pointed out that when Mr. Teacher was hired, he was not given any clear direction, structure, or responsibilities. Again, due to the district's lack of hiring a supervisor during much of the incumbent director's absence for the year and having an interim principal at the high school, there was absolutely no guidance for Mr. Teacher. The association pointed out at the meeting that Mr. Administrator 2 became the person overseeing Mr. Teacher. When the issue was discussed with Mr. Administrator 2 numerous times about the lack of direction, guidance, and structure not provided to Mr. Teacher, the association was assured by Mr. Administrator 2 that there would be a meeting to provide those things. I, as well as Mr. Teacher, were enthusiastic about such a meeting. Unfortunately, that meeting was never set up by Mr. Administrator 2. Finally, the association asked why Mr. Teacher's direct supervisor was not in attendance at this meeting. The answer, quote, we didn't want too many people here to make it more dramatic, unquote. The association's response was, quote, how much more dramatic could it be? You just told the guy he has 5 months to, quote unquote, turn it around or he'd lose his job, without any specifics of what he was not doing right and that he would be out of a job. I'd say that is as dramatic as it gets, unquote. From that point on, the district has been relentless in trying to get rid of this guy. And the association and its membership wants to know why. Thank you.
Excuse me.